contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat Earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Click OK, Neil, Surf Daddy, Len, Adam, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So welcome one and all.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, it's good to be here. We are in part 3 of a 60-strong list of, what do we call them? Feast of Nonsense housekeeping questions is kind of how they've been dubbed, which is to say that which we were addressing whilst formulating necessities to have housekeeping questions were typically based on Feast of Nonsense applications of flurf ideas that we were proving how flat the surface was when in fact debunking Earth's claim to be sphericity, entailing us, generally speaking, whistling past all flat Earth prerequisites used to establish the suggestion that we are on a globe in the first instance, for us to sniff our own farts while suggesting we debunk that notion that we ignored the flat Earth facts that built it with. So we'll be covering, 30 to 40 today, I think? All right, we're on part 3, right? No, yeah, is it 20 to 30?
Yes, it's part 3, Nathan.
I know it's part 3. It's in the title. I just forgotten what number we got to. I think we got up to number 20. I'll have to bring it up on Surf Daddy's list in Master B to see exactly where we are. But yeah, we've covered about 20 so far. See the other 2 shows. I will do my normal call to action, although I've just done my intro literally only moments ago. But I'll do it for the people who are watching this fresh, right? So if you're watching the re-up of this video, please share this video because we're going to be covering the standard fare stuff that people nag me to cover and say you should be covering, and then they list off all the things that they've become acquainted with and accustomed to when it comes to flat Earth discussion points. Well, for the most part, it greatly delights the anti-flat earthers, that's globe believers, when we cover the subjects that they're all familiar with debunking. And it delights the flat earthers, otherwise known as anti-globers, when we cover the stuff that they are familiar with in terms of what they are trained to respond to anti-flat earthers, that's globe believers with. So we, covering it now, will be of interest to the majority of the pond that we've left behind. And this is us sticking our fingers up to the people back in the pond as we point out in all aspects how Earth is measured flat. Now, off the back of this, I've been digging out, based on the amount of time I've got, some shorts videos from the live shows, that's yesterday's and Monday's, and turning them into 30-second, 60-second, 2-minute, couple of 3-minute videos in the short section of this channel. But the live shows are where you get it all condensed and obviously get to see it live. But if you're watching after the fact, please smash the share button. Obviously, if you're watching live, smash the share button, as I think these will be popular with people who might be already watching the show. And at this sort of tail end of the show where it's been dealing with the globe predominantly. I feel moving into the future with my book publication coming out, I'm going to be attempting at least to reach out to people who are beyond the typical scope of the arena that we find ourselves in, and therefore potentially introducing new people to the discussion. Now that will ultimately result in the same old rhetoric being rattled off, and it'll be the rhetoric that you're hearing on these shows. But in terms of our rhetoric moving forward with those new people, it'll be based on Earth being flat in all instances, as opposed to Earth not being spherical, based on distances being too far when you're viewing things with respect to a plane, and elevation angle measurements and elevations from sea level, etc., etc. So hopefully you'll all smash the share button. Before we do though, anything anybody wants to bring up from yesterday or day before, or live shows that we did, or uncut and after shows that we did, just to buy me some time more than anything else to get into the Sky conversation? Good.
I did enjoy the Land of Misfit Toys 2.3. I listened back to that; it was quite interesting, and I did enjoy that one.
You were the star of the show. So yesterday we were on the tail end of the live show. I keep coming away from Master B. I'll try and do it while I'm talking. We came away from the live show having rounded out the live show with talk about two people who've stolen from me. That's John Stunyer and Adam Meakin, who stole the 5th draft of the book that's about to come out, having gone through 10 drafts now and been delayed by about a year. So I'm basically behaving like a bit of a bitch and moaning about it. I mean, I took the L 8 months ago when they stole it and would move on, but for the fact that I wrote it into the book in the editing process up to the 10th draft. Can someone resend me the list? I can't seem to find it in Master B. Anyway, we were discussing it into the after show, and I was pointing out that a couple of people have been used to put a thin veneer of newness on the book that was stolen, with biographies about people who were inconsequential to the actual story, were getting moaned about because they're being utilised and basically put in a position to triangulate themselves with myself to offer up narcissistic delight for the person that's stolen from me. Now, I get the game, and I'm more than willing to play it if I know that there's going to be some benefit for me in the long run, which is to say that part of the book that will be published very, very soon has got a chapter on being betrayed, and this specific instance of the drafting process being purloined by a couple of thieving narcissists is part of the story. In fact, the opener to the book is me describing how my road, which I'm now condemning into this subject, was via the conspiratorial subjects. That is to say, subliminal messaging and psychopathy. The pseudoscience thereof was and is the opener to the book when it comes out, past and future tense. So it's already finished, but it hasn't been released yet in that weird interim. Hence me saying, when I go out and promote it, it's going to bring in some of these normie questions that we're covering on these shows. But ultimately, at the end of the discussion about these thieving 304s of Satan, as I described them, after them describing me essentially stealing my own material, so I just went out and dug out a few examples of me being told how I would earn 10x with the assistance of these two thieving scumbags, and how they continually describe which is on screen with my name on it as being mine, as opposed to a couple of thieving hoes who've decided to suggest that I've stolen my own shit. Nevertheless, when this was coming up, it was pointed out that these two thieves have actually got a show. Not that I particularly want to promote it, but it was being broadcast at a particular time at the end or conclusion of yesterday's Uncut and After show, which for whatever reason is still processing. For members, you haven't actually got to see this yet. I don't know why YouTube's dragging their feet with the processing of that particular video, but nevertheless, you'll get to see it hopefully soon when it gets finished in terms of its processing. But I released a video that was trimmed out from one of the sessions after the fact. So I've finished or concluded an after show and then just sitting around chatting, and the guys started talking about producing a show called The Land of Misfit, if I can get it right, Land of Misfit Toys 2.3. I think that's correct. And they're chatting about it for some time. And I said, well, if you like, I'll just trim this out and put this out as a video. And they were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So that's exactly what I did yesterday. So on this channel, which is Nathan Oakley 1980, unless you're watching on an Uncut and After show, re-up on my second channel. But on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, you can see that Land of Misfit Toys 2.0. And it's the bleating hearts of my very supportive panel members moaning about the fact that I've been stolen from. as I say, if this wasn't in the book, it wouldn't get any mentions. I don't necessarily like feeding the egos of narcissists as we bleat and moan about how wronged we feel. And was 8 months ago more than willing to take the L. Yeah, I've been duped, I've been conned, somebody's taken advantage of me, told me that I'll earn 10x. And when I hear people like Pearl talking about people who get conned tend to be taken in by some appealing notion of, in this case for me, earning 10x on my book sales because of the help of two thieves. Now, I've got those clips to trim out because there's a gaslit world, of course there is, of an alternative reality where I'm stealing my own stuff from them, as is always the case when you victim blame. Now, while I will take the L, I can easily demonstrate lies when somebody starts gaslighting unsuspecting empaths who are used to triangulate me with. Now, like I say, I'll lean into this and even publish shows about it while my panel moan about it, which is what Land of Misfit Toys 2.3 released yesterday was about. So that's what, although it took about 5 minutes, Wandeck's referring to. I hate having in-jokes in a live show, so I want you, the audience, to know exactly what Wandeck's referring to. And it does literally take 5 minutes to summarise. If someone came back to this section of this show 3 months from now and like, what is he babbling about? So you kind of got to summarise it all. So thank you for that, Wandeck. Yes, Land of Misfit Toys 2.3 got released yesterday.
Yeah, it's us mocking him because he's doing a treatment on 24/7 and he needs a treatment. But remember the tapes Mikey released, being demonstrated on the video who the author was when they're calling out, author, how do you want this? And the answer to that was, you can hear the sarcasm in my voice.
I see. Yes. Okay. What is it that a very famous professor said in the university? Choose your words carefully. Words have meaning. What's that? They don't really mean what they would be preferable to mean in a gaslit world that is the opposite to the words you've used. Spoken like a true narcissist. I was being sarcastic. Au contraire. The text with my name on it makes it explicit whose ownership the book was, and who was helping and gaslighting me into believing 10x of the profitability of the book would be afforded by two thieving bastards, who have then suggested that the book with my name written on it is actually co-authored by them. Really? Why didn't you insist on putting your name on it while you were working on it? Oh, it's because once we got about 90% finished, you thought, I can't possibly let Nathan have his own work that we offer to help with. I've helped with it, so it's mine now. Yeah, that's what thieves do. Like I say, this is in a chapter. You'll enjoy, if you're an audience member, reading about it in the chapter, when it's released very shortly, called Betrayal. And it describes not just these two. I mean, they're not that important. They haven't been around long enough. I mean, for heaven's sake, I introduced one of them into videography. The idiot didn't even know how to use OBS. I had to teach him how to do it. I mean, obviously, this person's given a gaslit world to idiots where he existed beyond Jesus himself and created the very world we all stand on. But that's what typical narcissists do when they take ownership of that which isn't theirs, so they can wear a mask of Nathan. Yeah, I've had it before and I'll have it again. Very amusing when the gaslighting narcissist doesn't realise that you've recorded everything and can easily show them lying to you about, quote, earning 10x while it's on screen with my name on the bottom of it. That second book about a spinster and a cobweb-ridden fanny hitting the wall, now that's not what was on screen while I was told my book would earn 10x by two thieves. But I will call them by name whenever it comes up. What's that? Oh, you like the Betrayal chapter? Yeah, Adam Meakin is a thief and stole my 5th draft after helping me with it, so-called. Yeah, he didn't. He only lined his own pockets while he was telling me I'd earn 10 times as much because of his help. Amazing, really. The guidance that they offered and then stole. But if you, the audience who's hearing this while I discuss it with a third party, would like to hear more about this, you can read about it in the Betrayal chapter in my book. See, I'm trying to getting into the flow of making this part and parcel of a rhetoric that leads an audience member into buying my book with my name on it about flat earth debate and the housekeeping questions and the characters, colourful that they are, that have introduced these questions, because it's easy to rattle off when you've experienced and lived those questions for 2,500 shows. Again, if you steal material from me and try and suggest that you're the author and arbiter of a world that I created, you're going to get called a thief. And no amount of layering up bullshit bios about people who have no significance to the story you've stolen will change the fact that I'll look down every camera I ever am put in front of and call thieves thieves. So there we go. You'll hear this rhetoric again when I'm on someone's show going, yeah, of course, the betrayal chapter's good. It's based on people getting fucked over. Everybody loves that. And me, yeah, I was the one getting conned. Yeah, I was told the book would earn 10 times more for us allowing the assistance. God, how stupid am I? You can read all about it in my betrayal chapter. I had to rewrite the whole book because they'd stolen it. But I just cut those fuckers loose and then got on with it. Because obviously it's not that difficult to rewrite your own story again, even after someone's stolen it, and put a thin veneer of a spinster hitting the wall on top of it and suggested that makes it theirs. I mean, that's something I can recite really easily to somebody even under pressure. As we all find out when I go out and tour my book and start getting people to actually get behind it. That's what it takes to make a product successful. I understand that the start of my book's journey will be at the publication point. It doesn't exist as a book yet. When it does, that's when the hard work begins. Because then we've got to go out and promote the damn thing and tell people to buy it. They don't just magically come to you. They lie to you. They say, build it and they'll come. No, they won't. You've got to put signs up and send out flyers and do advertising and radio spots. That's what you got to do. Promotion. And that's what I hope the book will actually afford me. Yeah, I want to pay the mortgage. Yeah, I want to put kids' food on the table. And yeah, that's what people generally do work for, in this case, produce material. Me producing books. But I like this bit, producing videography. And hopefully I've got a justifiable reason to go out, book in hand, and go, yeah, read all about it in the betrayal chapter. It is awesome. There are so many colourful characters in this wacky world of globe Earth versus flat Earth debate. So called in name only, because Earth's measured flat. Like the title of my book. So yeah, that's something you'll see coming up, me going out and promoting it. So, as I'll reiterate now, I typically just obey the rules when it comes to dealing with narcissists. No contact ever again. If you even dip your toe for 1 second into the slurry pot of narcissism because you've suddenly been screwed over, then you'll very quickly find that the advice is unilaterally sung by anybody who's experienced the same thing. Don't have any contact with them. Cut them off completely. And what you'll immediately find is little flying monkeys are put in place to come and triangulate with you. And you've got to cut them all off one by one, because those people are just offering the means for the engagement between you as a source of narcissistic supply to provide your mental energy to somebody who's stealing from you after most likely love bombing you, like offering you things in their book, like a little bio, telling you that you're a wonderful country singer, suggesting that your name will be going down in history as a spinster who can't keep a decent man. You know, those sorts of things, when spun correctly, can sound really enticing when you're being love bombed. Being told, like I was, that your book will earn 10 times more money. Those sorts of things sound really enticing when you're really poor. But that's how con men work. That's how they operate. They don't have a conscience. They don't have any empathy. They're not concerned that they're about to shaft you over and potentially take food out of your kids' mouths. They just want what they want. In this case, to wear a mask of me. Little mini me men that want to be Nathan Oakley, that want to be the person that was spitting out the facts about housekeeping 2,500 times, day after day after day. My legacy needs to be a thieving narcissist's legacy, so I understand. Makes for very good chapter writing. It's called the betrayal chapter. You'll be able to read about it very, very soon. I'll be promoting this in the way I'm training myself mentally to promote it when I'm in front of an interviewer about the actual subject. Who's been off mute this entire time? Neil, of course. Every single second sorry. I wanted to stop that rant because you're off mute the entire time. Thank you, Neil.
Sorry about that. I was dealing with somebody in chat that's claiming to be Sleeping Warrior.
Okay. Just don't be off mute while I'm having a little rant. I'm trying to train myself and concentrate. That said, it's good training. That is to say, when I'm in front of somebody and they've read my book And they're most interested, let's be honest, with the lowbrow stuff, the stuff about people. I mean, you could say this is one rung up. There's an event, me being stolen from, in the production of the very material that they'll have read. Now, that event might capture their imagination such that they ask me questions, and therefore I can anticipate, like I just have experienced, the line dancing around as they're off mute, probably with 10x the number of subscribers that I've got. Like I was told I'd earn 10x the amount of money on a book with my name on it than 2 thieving sods who were trying to steal from me. Just getting that patter down. Just got to get the flow. It's in the betrayal chapter. Out soon. Right, Neil, go ahead. Sleeping Warriors in the chat, you say?
No, he's not in the chat. I'm just dealing with somebody that's pretending to be Sleeping Warrior.
How do you know it's not him? Have you gone to his channel?
Come on, Nathan. I've been in this game long enough. I know how they're asking the questions. I know exactly who it is. I'm asking
Okay,
them to
fair
complain.
enough. I don't disbelieve you. You're doing a good job, Neil. You're in the chat doing the do. Right, should we go through some of these questions? Do you guys want to actually offer your rhetoric first on some of them?
No, let's just go through them. It's fun.
Okay, right. Well, I've got to find them first. That whole waffle was done, and then Master Beast shut, and I can't actually find the list now.
Well, Surf Daddy didn't resend them to you?
No. I found them, it's fine. Okay. Right, so yesterday we covered Moonlight always tests colder than Moonshade. Okay. Next. Super zoom cameras show that boats don't go over any alleged Earth curve. Right, I've already done disdain for the last 5 minutes, so someone else can pick up the slack. Super zoom cameras show that boats do not go over any curve.
Isn't that kind of a prove it a negative kind of comment?
The see too far argument.
Yeah. Look, I got a super zoom camera. It's not showing boats going over a curve. That's just kind of dumb. Should just say, look, I see a boat 20 miles away.
Yeah.
That should be it.
How far?
A linear
20
horizontal distance measured on a map with a flat scale. Surveyed accurately so that the topographical deviations in the vertical can be described from that accurate horizontal linear mile measurement when measuring Earth to the millimeter accuracy. Earth's measured flat with miles.
How far would represent the answer?
One more time.
The question, how far, represents the answer, which is a linear mileage.
Yeah. What I'm hoping moving forward is that your average Joe Normie comes across this subject and hears us in revised rhetoric after 12 years of doing this say what Craig has just said so concisely in question format. What's a mile? It's a horizontal linear distance measurement that's utilised when measuring Earth's flat surface. What's that? We have hills and valleys. Yes, the measurement of the hills and valleys is a deviation from the horizontal measured with miles and measured, although it's in a different convention now, moving from imperial to metric, measured with millimetre accuracy. I put it in that terminology because that's what the Ordnance Survey were sniffing their own farts with when bragging about how very accurately they have mapped and surveyed the land deviations from the horizontal flat Earth mile measurement all of the land is measured with. Ergo, Craig's concise summary, what's a mile? A linear flat Earth measurement system. That's what it is. It's a convention we use to measure Earth. It is ipso facto flat. Therefore, to assert heliocentrism is an extrapolation beyond an understanding that we will be utilising miles flat. Many of the heliocentric conventions that people have tied their lead to is based on these measurements. You've only got to look at things like Earth radius to understand that you've got a mile measurement, 3959 miles, that is in requirement of a linear, horizontal, ascribed value utilising this convention. That's distance. And it's flat. It must be flat, like we played in the pre-show from a couple of months ago with Buck Sodbuster, where he's describing, incorrectly, how Earth curve is measured with a theodolite, a tool for measuring angles. And then when asked how he will extrapolate two straight lines into Earth's curvature, he explains that he needs the distance to derive the curvature from. And the distance is a horizontal linear mile measurement, something that a glurf scumbag was struggling with cognitively and had to flap and stutter around. Because yes, to extract curvature, you first need flat Earth miles in a linear distance format to derive curvature from. First you'll measure Earth flat, then you'll calculate curvature into existence. Not in reality. You've got measurements of a flat Earth in reality. They're measured with distance. It is flat. Therefore, the most simplistic argument can be presented to a wider public. It's not that big a deal. It was always being measured flat anyway. Don't worry your precious little head about it. Have you never used a map? It was always flat. Go and buy an Ordnance Survey map and find your way around the country with it. It's got a scale on it, and they're bragging about the millimetre accuracy that they've measured Earth's flat topology with based on this system of miles. Here they are on the scale, flat and horizontal, linear by definition. And they're describing the mapped territory measured accurately to the millimetre on these little lines and squiggles on this piece of paper called a map. That's how Earth's been surveyed and measured. Flat, in all circumstances and without exception. The extrapolation of a curve belief for the ground stands in violation of all measurements that are used to extract curve suggestions from, as with Buck Sodbuster's extrapolation from linear horizontal miles into a derived curve value. Miles are flat, Earth's measured with them. Superb, Craig. Please share the show. That question about boats going over the curve, again, just back to plugging my book, I'll get into the habit of this. It's described in one of the chapters where I express my extreme irritation at this particular question, because the question, as Surf Daddy was pointing out, infers that there should be an Earth curve in the way. And when you photograph a boat at a given distance, that's a flat Earth linear horizontal measurement that you can acquire from a map if you know its exact location, or a clock on an island in the distance being a horizontal linear measurement, and you can basically read the time off the clock, you can say, oh, I shouldn't be able to see this clock. Why not? You've got a set of eyeballs and there it is in the viewfinder. What do you mean you shouldn't see it? Well, there should be an Earth curve blocking this clock. Is there? No. I can see it. Well, I need to now explain why the Earth curve that should block it isn't. Well, obviously, as a well-educated heliocentric believer, I can tell you for certain that it's a slightly looming, non-standard refraction, holographic projection from behind the physical geometric sphere edge that should be blocking it, but isn't blocking it. Therefore, it's a mirage of a clock from behind the Earth curve, refracted up so we can see it. I mean, what are you? Some kind of a flat earther? And you think, no, I'm just a guy with eyeballs.
What time was on the clock?
Time, you say? This is just fun for us now, right? Shooting fish in a barrel, waiting for those trigger words that require flat Earth prerequisites to express them as a convention. In this case, time. We've got Craig on fire, one deck on fire. Awesome.
Did you ever think that time would turn into a flat earth proof itself.
Everything's a flat earth proof. I'll say this. You'll hear this frequently. If there's a measurement and it has a connection to Earth, that is to say, if you have any Earth measurement, they will be and can only be flat. That is, every single Earth measurement ever. Past tense, present tense, and future tense. Earth measurements were, are, and always will be flat. So if you describe something like time, you go, is that an Earth measurement? Yes, of the sun. To average this measurement and produce a convention, you require the sun be measured with elevation angles. Look at Kepler's analemma if you want to know what I'm talking about. To average this system and give us a convention of time, Earth was, past tense, measured flat. If you want your current time, I don't know, from a sundial, present tense, you can measure time flat. Now, I'm not going to put it into a future tense. You get the general gist. But that is applicable to any Earth measurement. So remember, this will stick in my mind because of Wandex asking it. It just stuck in my mind because he kept reminding me of it. When he asked, well, is it unreasonable to say time requires a flat Earth measurement? Before he'd even finished the sentence, I was like, no, it's not unreasonable. It requires a flat Earth measurement. Because I already had this rule to adhere to. Is it an Earth measurement? Yes, it is. Yeah, then it will definitely be flat. And you've only got to scratch the surface to see where that flat Earth measurement's applicable in all circumstances. Often, and in years gone by, people have asserted these flat Earth measurements to us. Like they've given them to us whilst declaring an incongruence with the very measurements they're basing their suggestion on. Like was played in the pre-show with Buck Sodbuster. He's got to describe a deviation from the horizontal when he applies a curve belief to his worldview. All right, you've got to use a distance. Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Like any Earth measurement ever, even if you're suggesting that you've got curves to derive from an Earth measurement, the Earth measurement itself will always and can only be flat. The sun, time, is no different.
The best part of that clip was when he asked you, how do you measure curve reversal?
Oh, right, and I pointed out he's reversing the burden. Why are you asking me how you would measure curve? You've told me you measure Earth curve with a theodolite. I'm like, no. Your claim, Earth curve measured with theodolite. Theodolite measures two straight lines meeting at a vertex. Oh, well, I can derive the curve from the distance, end quote, Buck Sodbuster. Oh, right, so you'll need a horizontal linear distance. No, it's not horizontal. That resulted in getting called a lot of names, revolving specifically around his stupidity level. Yeah, with the most venom I could muster. And his response was to stutter like a moron. That's what happens when you start denying axiomatic prerequisites like horizontal distance. The same horizontal distance you'll need to derive your curve from when I come along and go, so horizontal linear distance measurement in miles then, yeah? Like 8 inches per mile, squared functionality of the curve, deviating from the 8 inches in a squared function when you've measured the miles flat. Yeah, you'll need flat Earth miles to suggest you've got a curve deviating from them. Obviously, every measurement of Earth, even the ones that Dumbos think they can derive curvature from, are flat Earth measurements. And when you start suggesting that the very base principle that you'll derive a squared functionality for curve from isn't flat, oh, well, what rate is the mile bending at? Will we have another straight horizontal convention to derive it from? Or is it levels deviating from levels at the rate of level, as was once carefully phrased by refracted curvature? I think we'll find it's the latter. Because miles don't curve. If they did, you'd need something to describe their rate of curve from, and that's not how it functions. we've got 8 inches per mile squared being the derivative squared function from the flat horizontal miles. You boneheads who think you live on a sphere require flat earth measurements, and you always did.
And nobody is saying that. It's like
I'm
we're
saying
the only
it.
voice.
I just literally just said it just then. Did you not hear me?
I mean, we're the only ones screaming it from the rooftops. Nobody's saying it. You got a guy in chat asking, how does Nathan measure the distance on its map?
Oh, well, let's
I
just
don't
answer
think
that.
he measured.
I don't. I mean, I do have several ordnance surveys in the cupboard from when I was driving around as a rep. I've got them from multiple countries. I was also given them regularly when I was out delivering groceries for Tesco in the interim period between working as a manager and working as a YouTuber. In my part-time job, they gave us ordnance survey maps so that we could drive around. They had little scales on them for miles. And we've gone through ordnance survey videos describing how the maps get created and how topographical deviations, that's curvature, like of hills and valleys, gets measured to the millimetre accuracy by having a horizontal linear mile measurement to describe them deviating from. So Earth is measured flat, not by me. I'm a YouTuber. Let's just lay it out. We've got Dumbos in the audience. Me, YouTuber. Ordnance survey, map makers, measuring Earth flat with linear miles. The deviation in the vertical being accurate to the millimetre. That's not me, you Dumbo. Hello? I think you're barking up the wrong tree. If you've got an issue with how horizontal miles are when we measure the surface, go and talk to the Ordnance Survey, not to a YouTuber. I mean, you're barking up the wrong tree if you think you're going to get the Ordnance Survey to redefine what a mile is. But I mean, obviously, if it's incongruent with your sphere belief, maybe you do want to go and tell the Ordnance Survey that they should jump off tall buildings, be castrated, have their kids removed, have the police sent round or social services. Oh, no, that's not Ordnance Survey, that's me. I get that as a YouTuber for pointing this shit out, don't I? My bad, silly me.
Well, you're going to like this, Nathan. He also says the Ordnance Survey, one survey is to apply local scale factors after you've measured flat from the map. It can add or subtract up to 40 centimeters per kilometer. That is how they get to their accuracy.
Right, accuracy? I don't think so. They're just measuring it. We've seen it. We've played videos from the Parthay descriptions from the Ordnance Survey using their stereogram or whatever they call it, that gives them the flat glass plane that has literally hundreds of square kilometres or square miles on it, flat, with the ascribed deviations in the horizontal being literally penned in by, what would you call them, artisans, map makers, cartographers. So we know how they measure it. They measure it flat. They're utilising miles to do it. Now, if you don't like what a mile is because the derivative function that you want to apply after the fact curves them, do what you like. It won't change how a map works or how Earth is measured. The other thing, if you want to suggest that you haven't got, horizontal linear miles, then the further assertion that we can derive sphericity by way of a flat horizontal linear radial value acquired by elevation angle measurements at the Polaris minimum we call the equator. That's a flat value. Again, why would you want to bend your radius? Do you not know that radii are straight? Obviously, you're stupid. You're bending miles. Meanwhile, miles are flat. For you too, as a dumbass sphere believer. I mean, like I say, you can suggest that your 3959 mile radius is bent after deriving it from a flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurement to Polaris. You can do that. It just won't change what elevation angles, that's latitude, to Polaris are. They're flat Earth prerequisites with 90 degrees below Polaris. You can't change the derivation, that's calculation after the fact, that gives you 39.59 at the equatorial minimum. That's flat. That's a radius value in miles. Like I say, those same miles apply to the surface and the deviation from it in topographical changes. Earth's measured flat in miles. No getting away from this. Don't have to like it. And it's not me that's the arbiter of it, in case you think you need to send the police or social service around to have my kids off me because I've told you this. You don't need to do that. We've only got one of them done today, and I've got only about 3 of yesterday's 10 trimmed out. So I'm happy if this conversation continues without us covering the next 10 in this particular live show. And then that means I can trim out more of the ones from yesterday's and produce a few more shorts videos with them. I'll give you a taster of what I mean by these shorts videos. Not, is it real, is it CGI? How high were they? From sea level to the person who has the burden. That's their extraordinary claim that there's men flying in the sky taking pictures of a sphere Earth from a sky vacuum. What height did they take this so-called photo from again? So that was one of the shortest ones. I think it was only about 16, 17 seconds. I'll give you a couple of others. This is me doing poetry from yesterday. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980. The ether sensation is the manifestation of the vibration when viewing libration and the perturbation in the variation of background radiation when we view illumination. There is no protestation in my verbal masturbation because perception of the visualization of light emanation in a rotation toroidation of magnetization through vacuum evacuation show their Maxwellization propagation with emotion demonstration phase quantization via quantum induction validation where we view the Michelson-Morley experiment showing consistent variation in the direction when illumination went on vacation at elevation in atmospheric stratification by interpretation. And that's a miniaturization of the ether explanation. If you lack in comprehension, it's because of your education. Did I mention the free power generation? Long live the ether. This is a declaration and not a theora hypothesization. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Wow, you got that out freaking nicely.
Great, that.
Yeah,
I think that was
That's
the
a
first time
grime
you did it
tune, that.
like that.
Thanks.
Put that to a song as well.
You're going to put the poem to a song? I reckon you could get at least a verse and 2 choruses out of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. But yeah, like a grime hip hoppy type of thing.
Got another
If you
one?
got the lyrics, I'll just send them over. Yeah.
I'll have to share for this one because it's got a screenshot in it, or what would you call it? A visual aid. Let's call it. Oh, one.
Yeah, like, you know, when they're doing that hip hop and the guy's spitting rhymes and you hear things in the background, you could throw names out in the background.
All right, it's the linear distance measurement that we use to chart all the land that this is apparently moving over. So got flat Earth measurements then. They're getting the same enjoyment as a 12-year-old boy would get when he's watching this stuff, believing that there's a place that you could be like Superman, hover around in orbit in 0G. Yeah, you too could be like Superman, little dweeb. That's the 12-year-old fart-sniffing, believing it methodology of watching this crap. But then you get overgrown hippies that look at the same footage and go, hey man, check it out. That astronaut just dropped its keys and it hit the floor and they're supposed to be in 0G. Look at that water on the side. It's not floating away. It's 110-year out of date force that's not a force that you can think of as a force of a mass attracting mass that will allow orbital motion to result in a net force of 0 called gravity that apparently isn't in existence when you debunk this footage. And what are you talking about? Their altitude's measured off sea level. They're travelling in a horizontal linear distance measurement. That's how the world's been mapped and charted and surveyed. So any ascribed vector to this claim to be rocket in a sky vacuum in violation of a law of nature, the second law of thermodynamics, is ultimately going to be affirming gravity for you while you debunk the footage? Who cares? It's got flat Earth measurements up the wazoo, like anything that's ascribed to an Earth measurement. In this case, velocity. It's doing, what, 17,500 miles per hour? What's a mile? All right, it's the linear distance measurement that we use to chart all the land that this is apparently moving over. So got flat Earth measurements then. They're getting the same enjoyment as a 12-year-old boy would get. That wasn't the one I thought it was. This one. There's plenty of subliminal messages out there. The Jeff Bezos penis-shaped thing that he's sending up has a feather. It's just a subliminal. There you go. That's why I wanted this to be screen shared, just so you can see the Jeff Bezos subliminal penis feather. There it is. Penis. It is the tip and shaft of a cock in the shape of a feather. Yeah, for the incredibly dumb. They're sending rockets up to an altitude measured from sea level. They're using ballistic trajectory. It's measured flat for distance and altitude, rather than suggesting that a vector's a snake tongue. Like anybody cares. But it sounds salacious, doesn't it? And satanic. It's a serpent's tongue. It's the forked tongue of Satan when they tell you about the sky vacuum. No, they just measure Earth flat with a ballistic trajectory. The stories that I've heard, unsubstantiated, is send it in a ballistic trajectory that you can only measure with respect to a flat plane, then dump it in the Bermuda Triangle. And then later on, they'll bring back a rocket from space that's a glider and everyone's happy. It's got a full story arc. Family Guy or some similar cartoon, Cleveland or something like that, where they had Stanley Kubrick come. And Kubrick is directing a trip to Mars. And in the direction, he tells everybody, close your eyes while they dump off a crane a module into the water. And he goes, splash! Right, open your eyes again. In other words, even the normie cartoon mainstream will take the piss out of the idea that they'll send up a scale model, dump it at sea, and then bring back a different rocket ship and dump it in the ocean and say, there you go, there's the man getting out. You saw it go up, didn't you? You saw the firework and all the flames. And then it went to space, honestly. It went through the wardrobe into Narnia. You just didn't see that bit. It was too far away, obviously. How far? Well, a flat Earth distance of altitude and height. And surface level mile measurement. Okay, so once we've taken the ballistic trajectory out of the equation, so no one focuses on how flat we're measuring Earth to get this thing into the sky, to then disappear over the horizon in what even the children describe as an arc. It's coming back down again, says the little boy. No, it's gravitationally attracted to the spherical radial value in an orbital motion, says the father, trying to sniff his own farts. It's just gone too far away and looked like it was coming back down again. But now we've got beep, beep. Yes, everything's nominal. And a few pictures. There we go. Right, I'll stop playing shorts videos. Got 10 minutes left. Hopefully we'll talk amongst ourselves for a little bit.
Okay, I'll make a little announcement. Roger Ledwell, get your ass in here.
Okay.
I used to always point to the part where the Elon Musk boosters were coming back down and landing perfectly on a barge in the middle of the ocean. And when you were mentioning, close your eyes, it reminded me that they would always, every single time, just as the thing is about to land on the barge, black out. Oh, sorry, we can't see this here. And then, it comes back up as the rocket is perfectly landed on the barge. And that was see, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. They won't let you see. That was my argument. NASA lies, or Elon lies. And that's where the fairly new and advanced anti-globers go to for their arguments, rather than saying, "Oh, it's landing at sea level,"
Exactly.
And yeah,
where are the measurements? That's all you've got to kind of ask yourself when you're having these discussions. If you want to draw a swift conclusion to them, just say, "Okay, this is suggested to be a proof of something. What's being measured?" And in the case of the Musk or Bezos flights, their trajectories coming from sea level. So when I was editing the video for the Jeff Bezos flight, which name I couldn't remember when I was saying it, but Blue Origin, I'm describing the subliminal message in the form of the feather. But then when I come to edit the actual slide to show that image, I'm like, I'm going to keep the altitude from sea level because it's not noted on the trajectory right at the bottom left. I'm like, yeah, don't look over here and think about it for more than a second, because you'll recognise how flat Earth's being measured perpendicular to sea level for the, in this case, rocket's return. All right, so it needed a trajectory for the projectile. That's a lot of a lot of R's rolled into that. The trajectory for the projectile requires Earth be measured flat. Want one more shorts video, or do you want to cover one more of the housekeeping questions that are feast of nonsense?
You did say we were going to get through about 20, so maybe one more.
Okay. Neil deGrasse Tyson, let's go on camera. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that the Earth is pear-shaped when all of the images we are presented with are perfect spheres. Right, he wants to tackle that.
That's just dumb.
These are feast of nonsense arguments, don't they? First and foremost, right, the question is based around the assumption that you, a so-called flat earther, wants to argue about an inconsistency with a piece of globe rhetoric. Now, I remember very distinctly going back to this piece of rhetoric and listening to it again, and then listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, if you compared the sphere Earth to a bowling ball, it would be perfectly smooth. Now, this is after he said, oh, well, the bottom's a bit more chubby. So in other words, he's completely, first and foremost, contradicting himself. Okay, so is it a bit more chubby, or is it a perfectly sphere-shaped bowling ball with no imperfections? When describing the topographical deviations in the form of hills and mountains at that scale, he's saying that the bowling ball would be perfectly smooth. Like, you wouldn't be able to detect anything beyond its perfect sphericity. And you're like, okay, so how would we know that? Well, we'd know based on the scale of the known territory being shrunk down to that particular size, and the measurements of the topographical deviations from horizontal. Yeah, that's right. We've surveyed the Earth flat to the millimetre accuracy, with topographical deviations being measured with respect to horizontal distances. It's called rise over run, if you want to look at what the actual measurement process is called. Now, the overall master reference for these topographical deviations at a wider scale is mean sea level. That's where the millimetre accuracy is respect to, how high or low it is with respect to that common reference. The master reference in the horizontal called mean sea level. That's how we've measured Earth to achieve a value that you can extrapolate into sphericity, to then have Neil deGrasse Tyson make this comparison where he says, based on heliocentric rhetoric, below the equator is bigger. And you're like, okay. But in the sphere world, mathematically derived from flat Earth measurements, if you were to imagine the ball with you being capable of holding it, it would be perfectly sphere based on the scale of the topographical deviations that we also measured flat. That's what he's actually saying. He's not saying that. It's just getting you to imagine that you hold Earth in your hands like a god. It's a very powerful magic trick that Neil deGrasse Tyson's actually performing. You just don't realise it. Now, if you're a flat earther, you'll go, he said the bottom was chubbier. Yeah. How did he derive radius to suggest Earth's a sphere? Oh, he measured Earth flat with elevation angles to the Sun and Polaris, did he? At the vernal equinox. Is that right? So we definitely need Earth to not be sphere-shaped to make this magic trick work. Shh. Don't mention how we make the ball. Start with the ball. Are you starting with the ball? Now run your hands over it. Feel real? Yeah, that's the trick that he's performing. But the measurements, if you can take it there immediately, are flat. They're elevation angles to Polaris to derive a system of ever-decreasing circles as you approach Polaris. When you reach its zenith, it's directly above you. As you back away from it and measure an angle to its position, you will create a 1 degree for every 60 nautical mile radius circle, increasing in area of equal elevation. That's a circle of equal altitude, getting 60 nautical miles bigger for every 1 degree that Polaris drops towards the horizon when you measure it flat with an angle. What's he talking about? Talking about latitude. That system that can be measured flat with ever increasing circles as you back away from Polaris to an equatorial minimum used inside a sphere that looks like this. That's you inside a Cartesian area of equal elevation with azimuth described with north, south, and east and west directionality, horizontal in orientation. That's how Earth's measured. For you to extrapolate out a map and kind of paint it on this bit, you can paint this with a little map and draw lines that come down from the areas that you measured off a flat plane and suggest that that means that the Earth's spherical, when you have to stand inside it for any of these mathematics to actually function in any practical way. You'll have to stand inside the sphere on an equatorial plane to make any of this make sense. But if you can ignore the fact that sphericity and heliocentrism requires you mathematically be inside the ball, it's best that you have a magician like Tyson talking about how it's a bit chubbier at the bottom if you're holding the outside of this reified globe Earth derived from flat Earth measurements. That was a pretty good covering of Neil deGrasse Tyson's chubby ball. Anybody else got anything to add in that regard?
If you've got a radius of a sphere, 3959, that sphere is 3959 radius all the way around it, right? So how can that be chubby?
Well, like the diagram on screen, the 3959 mile would be if you had measured Polaris and it was at your minimum. In this example, you've got a star that's almost at your zenith. It's, let's say, 1 degree off zenith. Well, if this is Polaris and it doesn't move, but this woman backs away, eventually she'll get to the point where, in her vision, this star is on the equator. And as it just disappears, that's the equatorial minimum. Now, it also matches one day of the year at vernal equinox with the midpoint of the seasonal transition of the sun. So the heliocentric model, in the most sincere extrapolation, if you choose to reify it, actually only works on one day. That's vernal equinox. That's why it's labelled in all these diagrams where you're inside a sphere Earth. Because that's how the acquisition of the system first comes to fruition. You have to measure Earth flat and then paste the ball onto the curve of the protractor. That's the convolution. That's the magic trick that creates a sphere. Measure Earth flat with angles, in this case to Polaris, and then make the curve of the protractor at an area of equal elevation, 3959 miles flat and linear that they are, in radial value, comport to a concertinaed area of equal elevation that you can describe on a spherical surface. That's the conversion. But what you've measured to achieve it is just a star reducing towards the horizon with a flat Earth measurement as you back away from it. That's all you're doing. Or in the case of the sun, measuring the midpoint for the average that gives us time. That's it. The time system being longitude, the area of equal elevation system in the northern hemisphere, hemisphere being the sphere of the protractor you're measuring, going beyond a point that's described as south opposite to north, doesn't suddenly mean that you're antipodal when you go beyond a point that a star gets to the minimum flat Earth angle. It just means it's beyond that. That's it. Some people think that you go past the equator and suddenly that transitions you into a spherical world. It's like, what are you on? No, it's just the point that you can't see Polaris anymore. Doesn't mean anything. It's carrying on a bit more south. What, away from the two-dimensional directionality that affords you south as a direction. There's north, there's south. So if I go a bit more south, I'm suddenly on the bottom of a bleeding bull because you've extrapolated out flat Earth measurements into this system that started with concertinaed, ever-increasing areas of equal elevation measured by way of a star's declination towards the horizon. That's all it is. Turning a protractor that you measure angles through into the surface. That's all the globe is. It's pathetic when you actually break it down. It's not that complicated.
What do I have to do with it? You mentioned my name twice.
I don't know. What were you talking about?
I don't know. I heard my last name mentioned, so I figured it had something to do with it.
I didn't say your surname. What are you talking about?
I heard Constantine something.
Concertina. Concertina means to zigzag down. Well, I'm describing, because it's the only word I can reasonably assimilate to the concept of having the minimum elevation angle to Polaris, like when it's directly above you, and then you back away, you walk away 60 nautical miles, and then you measure again, that angle decreases by 1 degree, which means you get a circle of equal elevation that's very small, that has that star at 1 degree at every point on that circle, that's only 120 miles in circumference. The entirety of the distance is double the radius, and the radius is 60 nautical miles because it's 1 mile for every degree that you back away from Polaris. So therefore, at any point on that circle, if you walked around it and kept Polaris at 1 degree, you'd have this tiny little circle. That's the top circle of latitude on the globe. And then as you back away again another 60 nautical miles, Polaris drops by another degree. That's to say, when you're measuring with respect to the horizontal plane of Earth's surface for an elevation angle to that star, it will drop 1 degree and increase the circle of equal elevation by 60 miles for every degree that you back away from it. You're just drawing ever-increasing circles. And when I say concertina, I just mean that you're layering them on top of each other in a convention that's slapped onto a globe, that when you describe it in any terms of measurement, you describe it like this on screen, where you're inside a protractor, measuring, in this case, azimuth and altitude. Well, the azimuth is north. You're talking about the North Star if you're describing Polaris. And the altitude is just the angle between the flat Earth, that you're measuring one of the lines, and Polaris. Well, once you've got that angle, you can draw a circle based on 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles to that star. That's where you get your nautical mile convention from, and apply it to latitude. That's how it works. It's not complicated, but it all works by measuring Earth flat repeatedly. Now, what you're doing in reality is increasing the circles of equal elevation on a flat plane, the equatorial plane. But if you want to believe you're on a sphere, you have to take those measurements from a flat plane and put them concertinaed, not Constantino, down till you reach the minimum elevation angle Polaris, which is the equator. That's it. That's how you create a ball to believe you're standing on. But if you ever put it into practical application, you'll always be inside the ball. That's the only way it can work, because it's converted a protractor to be the surface. Meanwhile, none of this is necessary. I mean, it's taken me, I'm not a smart man, 12 years to learn this in such a manner that I can disseminate it live to an audience with 50-odd people watching. 56. You know, it's not a huge audience. I've had 300-odd people at the height of Flat Earth and Feast of Nonsense being the topic of the day. Now we're talking about how Earth's just measured flat in all circumstances for everybody in the debate. Yeah, now I've got 50 people watching. Shock and awe. Meanwhile, to reach this point has meant we've had to dive through this feast of nonsense garbage so we can understand in a way that's capable of conceptualization through verbalization for you, the audience. But it isn't necessary. You just talk about how miles measured. 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles. What's a mile? Well, it's a flat linear distance measurement. They don't need to know about how you measure Polaris. I mean, that is the system. It is measured flat. But you didn't need it. You just needed to know how a mile worked, and you'd have known Earth's measured flat with it. That's what it is, by convention. In this case, nautical miles instead of statute miles. It's still flat. Any more for any more? So I've got to 22 when we start again tomorrow.
When is the penny going to drop? That's my question. We've been going over this for over a year now.
2 years.
And still get the same message. 2 years, right? Still get the same messages from people. The penny's not dropping. So, I don't know.
Maybe you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't know. I'm not too concerned. What I really would like is to keep the mortgage paid and be able to make videos, and hopefully my book will afford me the ability to continue on YouTube by expanding my audience as I introduce that material to others on other platforms. Whether or not the book itself will be the thing that makes the penny drop, as you put it, Neil, I don't know. One can only hope. But with that, I will say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, left a comment, smashed the super chat, PayPal, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.